at much lower concentrations, mostly 25 grams per liter. Distributors are hereby warned to cease and desist from the use of pesticides in fish and all other food products. Anyone found engaging in such unscrupulous activities would be in breach of the law and therefore shall face the undesirable consequences that comes with it. The general public is also hereby informed that this press release will be followed by risk communication exercise to create awareness on safe chemical pesticide usage to ensure good hygienic practices in food processing and to safeguard public health and preserve environmental health. The understanding and cooperation of the general public is highly solicited. The general public is assured that the concerned authorities will apply powers vested in them to ensure that the food chain is safe and free from any undesirable elements. And lastly, and I will reiterate, the understanding of the general public is solicited. Thank you.
Thank you. That is the joint statement from the task force. Just like Mr. Barr has said, when the polyalkylate was established and tasked themselves to investigate that we are communicating to the general public, as well as what we as authorities are going to do to ensure that this undesirable practice is stopped immediately. Dr. Baji, do you have anything to add before we open the floor for questions?
Yeah, I think it's okay.
Explicit. Yeah. I hope all of you are getting the copy of the press release. Huh? We will allow some questions. Huh? If you have any questions, please, we can answer those 4 questions if there are no other questions.
Of course, there are questions.
We first allow the Director General of Food Safety and Quality to actually pose the question.
Okay, thank you. I would start with the absence of food testing facilities. It's a national problem which the food safety is very much conscious of, and unless and until we have the appropriate food testing facilities, we cannot boast of a robust food control system in the Gambia. That is a reality and is certain. However, what are we doing about it? Currently, we are awaiting to sign an agreement with SGS, which is a global company on testing and certification. And once that is signed, we will be in a position to establish a food testing laboratory, which will be run by the SGS, and it will be an accredited and a recognized laboratory. Because some of these testing, you cannot test in any laboratory. It has to be an accredited and recognized laboratory. So that is what we lack in the country. So therefore, we are trying to get one so that it will be functional, it will be accessible, it will be also affordable for general food business operators. This is ongoing. And as we speak also, we are following up a grant application with the Indian government to a tune of $800,000 that will also support the laboratory facility for the Gambia. So, and some officials are leaving for India this weekend, and they will make follow-up on that. We are optimistic that that grant will go through, and it will go a long way in helping us establish the much desired testing facility for food and food products. That's the first question. The second question, which leads us also to the same issue, is it lack of capacity or is it negligence? My answer is actually neither, because food surveillance is not just about testing. Food surveillance is a system from registration to inspectorate and to certification and to audits and all other forms of systems. Now, yes, this was a hue cry from the social media that started. But then there is no food system that is 100% robust without getting complaints from consumers and also from business players. Even in the most developed country, which is the West, in Americas, in other countries, they also rely on, consumer complaints. People complain, and then investigations are launched, and then action would be taken. Or sometimes somebody will fall ill by eating one product, and then it's investigated, and that product is entirely recalled from the market. That's how food control works. So it's not only about capacity, it is a system. And that system, the consumer, is a critical component of that food control system. And that is why we have established the toll-free line, which is 1299, for food safety, so that people can actually call, toll-free and report anything that is not within the norm of food quality or food safety. To us, then the authorities will do what is right. So this is the system in all countries, and Gambia is not an exception. So I hope that also answers your question number 2. On the presence of sniper, sorry? Oh. Not down. On the presence of sniper, let me say this. When we were doing the investigation, before we stop at sniper, we said that we were going to widen the investigation and not just narrow it down to the ingredient of sniper. And the way we narrowed it down, the way we expanded it was, like I said, we had also experts who were in pest control and pest management. So they advised on the other kind of pesticides that we should also look for. Because if we narrowed it down only to sniper, we wouldn't know whether they were using other things other than sniper. And of course, to our surprise, we have realized that there are other pesticides that are not sniper. Pesticides that you can find in bed nets, for example, the pyrethroids, such as palmitrine, and the other one, and cypermethrin. These two are pyrethroids. So they are found usually in insecticide-treated bed nets. Now, there are others that are also very toxic, equally to sniper. Abamectin, for example, was found. And the question is, how did these actually get into the fish? That's a good question. And we are going to continue this investigation, and we are going to find out more. And we are, of course, going to engage the processors, the distributors, and also the vendors. And we are going to have an action plan from here by the task force, so that we'll be working together to address it. food safety cannot and will not address it alone. We will work with our partners, and we will collectively, with concerted efforts, we will be able to address it finally. So I think these are the key questions that are associated to FSQA. Perhaps I will help when it comes to the kidney problem.
Yes, so Dr. Bayi?
Yeah. Sniper is banned, but still in the market. I think if I can put it shortly. Well, as you know, the issue of sniper has been on for a very long time. And at some point, government created a moratorium, which means because it is not actually a banned product, because it's meant for agricultural purposes. But there is a kind of a misuse in the use of sniper, which means something that is meant for farmland is being used to address our bed bugs or whatever things that make us unpleasant in our homes or in our rooms. So essentially, there was a moratorium, and that moratorium was placed for people not to be using the sniper. And later on, this issue came in, where we had an engagement with our board, the chemical board. Then we said, looking at the situation of this sniper, what can we do to address the problem? Then we came to the conclusion that the sniper should be totally banned in the country by the 31st of October 2022. This was actually what was the decision that was taken by the board to ensure that the sniper is totally banned by the 30th. However, we do not leave it at that. We use our inspectors to go, while this ban is not totally effective, but we use our inspector to go and confiscate whatever product that they can see in the market. Right now, if you go to the agency, you have piles of cartons of sniper that are stored there. What we receive from the market is what we normally store there. But I know the process is on. And the problem is, with all what people have talked about, but still people are using sniper. In a sense that there is a market. But I think with this kind of sensitization awareness, when there is no market, at least there will be no seller. I think those are some of the things that need to be done. But henceforth, we'll work with the tax team to ensure that with the necessary security apparatus, and including you, people who are outside, who are seeing this thing on a daily basis, you have this number being raised here, you can call, and we'll be able to make sure that we follow them and get this product done. It's going to be a long process, but at some point, it will reach at a conclusive end to this sniper, particularly when the ban is effective on the 31st of October, which is a few months from now. The other thing which my DG mentioned, maybe you come and help, is about these kidneys. Well, I know we'll hear that there is issues related to what we call persistent organic pollutants. There are things that we do in our life, things that we apply. In fact, most of the time, whether we use chemicals, we use products that we even don't know, we don't even read the active ingredient of those products. And eventually, these things are bioaccumulative. They'll enter into your system, and they're not going to be there. Not like you put in a poison on a rat and it dies instantly. This is because of your body weight. It will be in your system for a long period of time, but it will be bioaccumulating within your tissues. So the time and the kidney is serving as, a filter or whatever, at some point, it cannot do what it's supposed to do. So apparently, it will fail. So we may not say that it is associated with it, because that has to be proved by a certain scientific evidence. As scientists, it has to be science-based. However, we know that there is a misuse of chemicals, not only sniper, misuse of chemicals in our country, both domestic and at farmland. And we realize that this is a concern, and we have to work together, and including the media, to ensure that there are programs for sensitizing people on some of the things that we do ourselves, even the sprays we use, the mosquitoes thing we do, the churai you normally put in our houses, they have long-term implication on our health. But do we know that anytime you go, you already have a full pan of churai and the churai there, burning all kind of thing, and then you'll be taking that, inhaling that one. That is an indoor pollution, which had a long-term implication on your health. So these are some of the things that we have to look at. But I can remember in 2017, there was also a study that was supported by FAO with respect of misuse of chemicals. And we realized that there's a lot of misuse of chemicals in the country. So, and there was also a sensitization with respect to that, because these are chemicals that the chemicals, just like fire, we need them. What is important is to make sure that we are careful in the way we use them. We cannot say we're going to eradicate chemicals, because it's part of our life. But we have to make sure that we have a judicious way of using this chemical to protect us and protect the environment, other living things that cannot come and tell us that we need protection. But we as human beings are supposed to take that responsibility to protect them. Because what we put them also affect the other animals that cannot come, an animal, whether it's a goat or sheep or a hen or whatever, because they drink in those areas or they eat in that food chain. So that is our responsibility, a higher animal, to ensure that if you see somebody putting something wrong in a particular area, you have to take that bull by the horn to say that, what you are doing is wrong, it's affecting you, it's affecting me, and it's affecting other people. I think that will help us in a long way to address some of the misuse of things that we are having in this country. I think that may answer your question. So, DG, I think you can help in the kidney aspect as well.
Media also where these products are, so these institutions can exercise their legal powers to go and investigate and confiscate or seize the products that are desirable to our health. Any further questions?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not seeing the other hand, but I'm seeing Mulaman from QTU again. A short one.
Yes. At the end of the
Enforcement steps, which is we have the powers. First of all, we can give you a verbal warning if it warrants only verbal warning. It depends on the severity. Then we can also give a written warning with improvement notice. That is also another step that we have the powers to. We also have powers to confiscate. We have powers to prosecute. We have powers to fine. So these are actually the powers that are, we have also powers to close. So these are the powers that are vested under the authority. So, and we use them according to severity. So that's how we use them. Now, on the training and preservation techniques, again, like I said, most of the things that are happening in these fish landing sites, fish processing sites, requires concerted efforts, and it requires multi-sectoral approach. We have fisheries, we have, for example, NANA, we have other bodies that are actually interested in supporting our small-scale fish vendors, entrepreneurs, to actually be able to support their businesses and be able to even export, under, ideal conditions. However, it takes a multi-sectoral approach on this. So, of course, there are other preserving techniques that are being applied, and we will continue to look for technology, because technology is an everyday improving and everyday advancing thing. So therefore, we will engage the appropriate technology that would be used, that is easily affordable, easily accessible, easily sustainable, so that at least these people can be using those techniques that are, of course, also in compliance and in conformity with good hygienic practices. We will make sure that it's done, but we will make sure that we also engage the relevant stakeholders on this. Now, on the mechanisms to prevent, I mentioned that right after this, again, concerted efforts, we will have an action plan, and we will reach out to all the landing sites. And that will also lead me to answer the same question at the same time about what will we do with Bakote. We don't know whether they are notorious or not, because this is a first sample, and this is the first time we are seeing this. And I must admit, and I'm sure you will admit with me, that no one in their right minds will actually think or would have thought that people will use pesticides in fish. So definitely. So we know them to be used for other purposes, but definitely not for fish. I must admit, even for me, I was taken by surprise. So, and I'm sure I am not alone in that field. Now, we found that Bakote has one of the highest when it comes to chlorvos. We will have an action plan, and we will make sure that we work towards that action plan and implement what all the experts have asked us to do to make sure that it doesn't happen again, to make sure that we prevent this from happening, and to make sure that, of course, access to these products become even more difficult. Like Dr. Baji alluded to, the banning of this substance, which is this sniper. In fact, we are going to try to actually invoke with the board, with the chemical board, to institute an immediate ban after this. We don't even want to wait for a month or a day or a week longer. So we want to invoke it, and I think it is good and justified reason enough to actually invoke an immediate ban without any further delay. So there are other actions that we will take, and we will engage. We'll have a multi-sectoral teams that will engage the processors, the vendors, the distributors. And we'll also engage our partners also in Senegal, because we are also getting information that they might be practicing it across the border, and then it is coming to the country. It may not only be necessarily that we are the only ones doing it, but it might also be possible that our neighbors, because Gambia is porous and everything crosses this border. So we're going to be vigilant, and we're going to engage our partners in the other country to see whether the same situation is prevailing. So that if we control it and Senegal doesn't, it's going to be very, very, very ineffective. But I think it's going to be, again, a concerted effort approach. I think that is...
What delayed the results from?
Yes.
Delay in the results.
What delayed the results? We first had to do the sampling. And of course, out of the sampling, we had to decide, again, how to select from the samples a subset that will be representative. And of course, since it needed to be prepared and to be transported to Senegal, we also could not send it through courier, because most couriers would not want to take responsibility of those samples. So we had to end up sending it by road, and one of the officers went and escorted the sample to Dakar. So of course, because of if you look at the parameters also, the list of pesticides that we wanted to test per sample was many. And as a result, that can also contribute to the delay in getting the results back. So I think this has answered the questions. And somebody was asking for the landing sites. It was Bakau, it was Burfoot, Tanje, Kartong, and is it Banjul was part of it, and Banjul,
Sanya.
Gunjur, and Sanya. So these were the 7 landing sites. So I think I've answered the questions, right?
Thank you. Just to add one, or putting on the use of the mechanisms that we put in place to control or prevent this. We are trying to put in a surveillance system that will try to look out for this misuse of sniper in the fish. We will strengthen the inspection system. The inspectors are now alert. They are very watchful now as far as these areas are concerned, so that anybody found using this kind of products will be caught and dealt with. Of course, we'll sensitize the public, the processors as well, and everybody should know that this is an undesirable practice that should not happen. Just like Mr. Parr said, all of us here were caught by surprise that a chemical product is used in our food system. That is a surprise to all of us. We didn't expect it, but now that we have a slap on our face, we will definitely strengthen our surveillance, our inspection, our sanitation of the vendors. Yes, the question on the whether vendors are trained on the preservation. Yes, they are trained on the preservation. The fisheries department has trained fish vendors on appropriate ways of smoking fish. They have been working with them through projects to establish technologies that will help them to preserve the fish in a most appropriate way. But human beings are human beings. Sometimes attitudes dictate us to do certain things. You will have a better way of doing things, but because of your attitude, you end up doing something completely different. And this is the case in this particular case. For those that do further processing, we try to get them into an association that have an executive. They were trained. I remember even my institute, NANA, has trained food processors in good hygiene practices, good manufacturing practices, just to make sure that they follow the due processes in their producing their products that will be safe to the public. All these are things that are happening. But again, like I said, it boils down to the attitude of individuals that are doing some of these unscrupulous things in our systems. Any other question before we close this?
I only have one.
One more question.
Yes.
Okay.
One more question.
All right.
With all the evidence now that kind of, I don't know, reacting. I say if you heard what I said earlier on, the sniper is not meant for use in our indoor houses, not to talk about food, as the DG mentioned. Because for us, it's a surprising thing that we are thinking about the sniper being used in our homes as indoor. Indoor is to kill our bed bugs or whatever, mosquitoes or whatever they think about. So at that time, it was a misuse. And that's why it was a moratorium to sensitize the public to know that what we are using in our houses is not meant for the house. It's meant for farmland, for our crops. So that's how this started since around 2019 or so. That's a long time. And then we did that one. So this one coming up, and then we realized that still the sniper is being used. So we realized there is a need for us to come up with a ban because it's being misused. Instead of using it for the farm, you have to, that's why we even gave that length of period. Now, this thing came in terms of people using the sniper in our food product. It's not only sniper, it is all around. The results have shown that other things have been included. So now we are now saying that hence is now using in our food chain. I think there is a need for an immediate stop for it because it affects you, it affects me, it affects everybody. So that's why these steps are being taken. to ensure that it is no more, it's a product that cannot now be used in Gambia because it's being misused grossly in terms of in our household usage as well as in our food chain. This is how this aspect comes. So it's not like it is a long time, but at least when you are dealing with, in our smoke we have the laws to stop things. It's the same law that can also be used for misuse, to misusing the laws inappropriately. Because at the end of the day, somebody also can litigate you on the premise of why do you do this when the provision of the law says. I'm not a legal person, but I think we just have the way we use the law for people is the same way the law can also be used on us as an institution. So you have to be very, very careful on that. Yeah. So the other thing I think he mentioned something, whether we can, if you look, he mentioned something very critical, whether we can advise people.
No, he asked, I will answer that.
Yes.
Whether we will advise people to desist from eating smoked fish.
Yes.
The answer is no. Critically, chemicals in our lives constantly. We have to find a way of managing the levels in our bodies. Smoked fish and dried fish constitute a significant part of a Gambian daily diet, and is what is affordable. It is what is accessible in most communities. However, I can say this, since the investigation started, there has been a significant change in the way and people are processing and people are selling fish. So that's why out of the respondents, very few people actually accepted to respond, and even that, most of them were in denial. Meaning that if you go back to the the processing sites as of now, and we sample again, which we intend to do, the levels, I think, would be a different story. So as a result, we cannot continue assuming, even though we know that the samples that were collected at the time had pesticides in them. We also need to check again whether the practice has stopped or has reduced for us to be able to advise the public accordingly. But as of now, it is premature for us to say that you should desist from eating smoked fish or dried fish. And not everybody is doing the practice, to be honest. So we cannot say the use of one is applicable to all. So therefore, we cannot generalize that statement, and we cannot say that it's widely and everybody is using it. So as a result, we cannot say that. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, the various media houses here present, for the various questions. I hope we were able to clarify all the questions that came up. We are together in this. We as technicians or experts in the various fields mandated by the government to implement our various mandates has to work hand in hand with you, the media, to inform, educate, and communicate with the general public so that everybody will consume safe, quality, wholesome, and standard food in this country. We thank you so much for your attendance. Thank you.